All right, we're back for another episode of Definitely the Experts. We're continuing our guest trend here. We got Sam, we got Connor, and we have our good friend Josh Marineau. How are we all doing today, boys?
Doing well.
Very good.
We're happy to have Bobby Marmalade on the podcast today.
Yes,
How you
thank
doing?
Good. Thank you for having me on the show for my first ever podcast appearance in my 24 years of being alive. It's going to be a cool experience.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
bro.
So we're going to have some fun. NFL schedule came out this week. I don't know if we want to touch on that here right away, or we can get into that later, or not at all. We have literally months before. we got time to fill later.
We can talk about it now.
Yeah, so the NFL schedule was released last night. That's exciting. It's fun just going through it because it is some sense of normalcy, and it's able to put something on the calendar here that hey, it's like regular life's coming back eventually, apparently. But I don't know. The first thing that jumped out to me, and this is looking at it through the Tundra Line lens. 6 games in November and December, only 2 games early in the season, which means it's going to be cold for the most of our performance obligations, which is not fun. Not looking forward to that.
Yeah, I through the Tundra Line lens again. It's I agree that it's kind of unfortunate that most of those opportunities to play will be in probably cold weather. But it does mean that if the season gets flexed back at all, that we don't lose. Well, I guess they just get flexed to the end of the year. But for the most part, though, we're sticking with what we've got, right? Like we're not totally in contingency mode with a lot of our home game opportunities. Like, oh, well, we have this opportunity, but we might not actually have it until February now. Like, if the season's going to happen, like, these games at the back end here are probably locked up, barring like an outbreak from the pandemic.
Or the second coming of coronavirus.
Yeah, right. The second,
Yeah, when
the
wave
second
2 comes
culling.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Josh, have you done how many Tundra Line games have you done?
0.
Oh, 0. Oh, never mind.
Yeah, I had kind of it was a weird first year of being in Tundra Line. My only real gig was a taste of Madison, and that wasn't even really supposed to happen. It was like Patrick.
Yeah, you just hopped on.
Yeah, I was just like there to watch, and I was just like hanging out. You guys were like getting ready, and then apparently Patrick had to go work at the music shop or something, and then Connor's like, "Oh, hey, well I got a black tank top on, and I'm wearing my Tundra Line shirt, so I'll still look the part if you want to wear my Tundra Line shirt." I was like, "All right, sounds good." So it was fun. I mean, I wasn't expecting to play that day, but it was a good time. And then my only other opportunity was cut short due to some drum logistical problems, so I wasn't able to perform.
Oh, I remember that.
That was quite lame.
What was this story? I don't remember this one.
This was the parade that we did with Ralph, where Bob was supposed to play on that, but then Patrick loaded up the drums, and he loaded up one snare drum too short.
Oh, was that that? Oh, was that? Was that one in South Milwaukee?
Yeah.
Oh,
See, that would have been my first.
did you make the drive down there, Josh? Did
No,
you make the
no.
drive down there.
No, Patrick,
it was like a day before Patrick looked in,
Okay.
and it was like, yo.
Well, that's better. No, at least it's you figure that out then the day before, as opposed to we all show up an hour before, and it's
right.
damn, Josh, man, thanks
Go
for
home.
coming, but whoops,
Get out of here. Yeah, so it could
I
have been.
done goofed.
It could have been worse, definitely. Like I didn't even really think about that being a possibility. So at least Patrick, I don't remember how we found out if he just like opened up the trailer or what the deal was. But it was pretty lame because I was like still learning the tunes at that point, and I was like, all right, I'm good to go. Like I got everything memorized. Like I feel pretty good. I'm even got the visuals down as much as I can. And like I don't know what it was, 7 or 8 at night. I just get this text from Patrick, and I'm like, oh come on, man. So it did. I was pretty bummed, and I was kind of like in a screw this mode for a little bit. But I was like, oh, it happens. But I'm hoping to come back for the upcoming season, assuming football happms.
Well, we have
Yeah.
the schedule out, so it looks like it's going to happen eventually in some capacity here. But yeah, those summer gigs are small potatoes. The games are the real fun ones. But And who knows? We might be looking at a situation here, like you're saying, if the things get flexed back here, where we have 0 warm weather games, so it's all just kind of shitty playing conditions. Which I know you know that because you did UW band.
Right. Got to play with the cold hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of the actual schedule here, I mean, nothing super crazy. There's a bit of a rough patch in here with the Packers having a Week 5 bye. It's kind of early. And then they sort of run into a bit of a gauntlet here with, I guess even from before the bye, they played New Orleans, Atlanta, bye, Tampa Bay, that's been recently outfitted, Houston, Minnesota, Niners.
Yeah, Niners one. That's a tough one. That was really the one that jumps out at me, just because of it. That's the game where they got smacked in the ass last year in the NFC title game, and also that's going to be on a Thursday on the road. So that's a quick turnaround after the Vikings game on Sunday before.
Yeah, you hate to see it. But in any case, besides that, the only other thing was it was kind of weird seeing that we don't play Chicago until Week 12. Divisional opponent. So, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I like the away opponents. I'm excited to see some folks here. Yeah, hopefully at a Tundraline gig. The Philadelphia Eagles. I'm excited to see Mr. Minshew.
We get to see Tractor Seat at the end of the season with the Titans on a Sunday night game.
Oh, yeah.
Something noteworthy there.
We might.
Yeah,
we have a December 19th or the 20th. That's exciting.
Possibly a Saturday game.
Hell yeah.
I love the Saturday games.
The boys love the Saturdays.
I apologize. I don't have a ton of input on the NFL schedule. I'm not actually like I don't watch a ton of football. But you know.
Well, here, let me toss you a softball question. Las Vegas has set the line for the Packers win total at 9.5. Do you think they're going to win more than 9 games after your very detailed analysis of the schedule? 9 or fewer, or 10 or more? What do you think?
I'm going 10 or more. I'm going to try to be optimistic.
Hell yeah, baby.
You're bullish coming out. I was thinking today, I almost talked myself into liking that over. And I just was like, well, okay, what did they do in the draft? Yeah, they did what they did, and I'm like, yep, no, give me the under. although I will say 9.5 feels right about right. I could see him 9-7, 10-6 is right. I think that would be an appropriate level of regression after going 13-3 last year.
Yeah, I mean, looking at some of these games, man, it's I don't know. I can see us pulling 9 wins out of our ass here from this crop of people, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, look at it. The lens I kind of thought about it through as well. We went 6-0 against the division last year. I don't think that's going to happen again. Regardless if this team got better or worse, that's just tough to do and probably not statistically likely to be repeated. So if you just say, well, let's just split the division games 3-3, and then start from there. New Orleans loss, San Francisco loss. They're up to 5 losses. And you sprinkle in 1 or 2 more without really getting too detailed with it, and then 10-6, 9-7.
Okay, yeah, that's
Bold
fair.
Predictions from Sam Bieneman.
That's my 10,000 foot view. My view from 10,000 feet looking down here, but a lot of time between now and September 19th when they kick off against the Vikings.
Yeah. Well, in any case, I guess let's dive a little deeper into what Josh does. Josh, can you describe in a few words what exactly you do for a living?
Yeah, so I'm a recent civil engineering graduate from UW-Madison. You know that Sam also went there, got the same degree, although we had a different focus. So I specialized in water resources engineering and environmental engineering, and I actually work now at a company called Mead and Hunt, and I work primarily with dams and other flood control type structures. So it's a lot. I don't know. It's pretty interesting, and there's a big variety of projects. Whether that be like from we're dealing with something that's more of a hydropower thing, or if it's there's like a new development going up, and we have to try to map the floodplain that would result from that new development. So it's interesting, and it's maybe a little bit hard to dive into the specifics just because there's a lot of industry specific things, but the simple matter is it's primarily like dams, hydropower, and flood control type stuff.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, using your expertise from that, I think we can dive into the main bulk of our topic here, which is
is water wet.
Yeah.
Is water wet, Mr. Hydro Man?
Is water wet? Well, that wasn't covered in the curriculum at any point. I will say that, but
they didn't cover it in 311.
No, they did not cover that in hydroscience or fluid mechanics, but I would say water is wet if I'm going to pick a side.
Why?
I don't know. I don't overthink it. I think that's
Well, I think water isn't wet.
Are you from the camp of people who think that water isn't wet, but it imbues wetness on other things?
Yeah. So how could it possibly be wet?
I think it's, well, I don't know, man. It's all semantics at the end of the day.
Is it?
Well, we were just talking about how we don't disagree enough on this show, so I'm going to side with our guest here and say water is wet, so get fucked, Connor.
Okay. All right. 2 versus 1.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before we actually get into what we're going to talk about, I do want to ask you, do you have any stories from your time at UW-Madison, like terrible professors or terrible group projects that you like to share?
Yes, I do, So I was taking this class called Soil Mechanics with my professors Dante Fratta.
Dude, I think I know what story you're going to tell. I just want to say that ever since you told me this, I see Dante Fratta's name everywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's all over the place. It's just like I'll see him on like a chain about like I just saw him this week actually because I think he's like some sort of curriculum coordinator for something in civil. So I'm part of my job is editing the course guide for industrial engineering. So I have to I'm on this big old email chain and it's like, oh, there's Dante Fratta. I know that guy. He's an asshole.
Yeah,
anyway.
Man, he's unfortunately just in the scene. I mean, he's involved. I mean, he's high level in academia, and he's involved in American Society of Civil Engineers and other professional organizations. Like I saw him at a conference back in I think it was back in September, October in Madison, and I was like, oh God, I'm gonna keep seeing this guy as long as I'm working in the Midwest probably. And I'm like, well, it is what it is. But basically, the story was I took an exam and I made what I thought was a pretty minor mistake. And what ended up happening is I got a negative. It was a 20-point question. I got -10 on it, and there were only maybe 3 questions on the exam. So I pretty much got a C on the exam for getting one thing wrong, and otherwise everything else was correct. And I was like, oh man, that's I don't know, that seems kind of unfair, you know what I mean? And it was the whole class is already graded super harshly, so I was pretty protective of my grades. So I go to ask my TA, and I'm like, what's the deal here? He's like, oh, I didn't grade your exam. I'm like, you didn't grade? I'm like, who grades the exam? He's like, I can't tell you who grades the exam. He's an anonymous grader. I'm like, well, I want to know what I did wrong and why it warrants such a big point reduction. He's like, oh, well, you have to take that up with Dante. But if you talk to Dante, then he's going to regrade your test as a condition of you talking to him about your exam. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to take this guy on because he sounds, I was already thought that rule was stupid, and I was kind of in the fuck you mood. So I was like, I email him, and he's like, oh, are you sure? I'm going to grade your exam. I'm like, yeah, man, you can go ahead and grade my exam. And I go in there, and he's just asking me a bunch of really, weird questions that are kind of made to make me sound like I don't know anything about the class, and he just starts marking stuff wrong. He's like, oh, -3 here, -2 there, whatever. And I'm like, holy shit, dude, I'm going to end up with a D on this test now for trying to get some answers. And then so I was like, okay, man, like, I was like, you made your point, like, whatever. I'll keep my grade, and we'll just forget all about this. And he's like, well, come back when you know the material better, and we'll have a different conversation. I was like, whatever. So I'm like, I'll just let it lie. I'll take my C. I'll move on with my life. And then I get an email from the guy, like 2 weeks later, and it's like just in the subject line, it's like, are we gonna meet again? And I was like, oh man, this guy is like playing mind games with me now. I was like, well, I'll meet with you, but only if you promise not to take off points. I'm like, that's my condition of having this meeting. And he was like, fair enough. So I go back in there. You know, he tries to give me some philosophical conversation or whatever about being prepared, and like I don't even really know what the purpose was. And he gives me like 3 points back, and I'm like, okay, that's a win. And then that was the end of that. And I've pretty much always shit on the guy since that class was over. And that wasn't just the only thing. There were like he never updated the Moodle page from the default Moodle page or whatever, or Canvas or whatever it was called. He just left it, so it's just the whole year it just said, welcome to class. And like, I was like, you know, it would be one thing if the dude actually like put effort into the class and then he was grading like an asshole, but he like puts no effort into the class. So I'm like, dude, I don't feel, you know, I'm like, I gotta try to challenge this guy's status quo he's created for himself by being a big man on campus.
Man, that's interesting because like I didn't have Dante for soils. I had
Lycos?
I had the other guy. What was his name? I had him for another class too.
Is it Lycos?
Yeah, Bill Lycos. Yeah, he was really chill. He was similar. He didn't seem like he put in a lot of effort into the class, but he was like chill about it. Like I took a slope stability course elective after a couple semesters after I did. Did soil mechanics, and it was like we had like assignments and stuff, and we took like one exam in the middle of the semester, and it's like, are we ever gonna get any of this graded or any of this back? And the answer was no. So there's one of the grad students in there who's actually my TA for soil mechanics is in that class with me, and we were working on our final project group, and just like asked him like, hey, do you know what's going on? Are we gonna get any feedback on anything we've done all semester? And he's just like, you know what he's probably gonna do, he's just gonna take everything and just like, oh yep, complete. Hunter, okay, yep, you turned it in, you did it, good enough, and be done with it, because he hasn't done I think the TA even said, like, when said to this guy, was just like, yeah, probably could have put a little more effort into this class, just openly admitted it. Just like, this one kind of got away from me.
You know, like my whole job, which is teaching, well, it's not the whole job, obviously, but a big part of the job of professor is teaching, and it's
it would
like
probably be argued to be the primary reason that you're a professor.
Right. Although
and I don't want to knock him and say he's a bad professor, because I did learn a lot. Just is the administrative side of that teaching component was just no effort. Like I think on the syllabus, like, yep, we're gonna have a midterm and a final exam, and then we had an midterm, and then, well, I don't know, I didn't really write a final exam, so we're just gonna do this group project and be done with it.
It's like I kind of forgot I was procrastinating, and now we're just gonna do this. So it kind of makes me wonder how, like, the older professors, or maybe not older, but maybe just the lazier professors are dealing with the whole coronavirus situation. I guess you probably have some perspective on that, Connor, like trying to get these people to like actually set up their curriculum in an online format.
Yeah, I mean, I expected the worst for sure. We don't have a ton of faculty in our department that are like what I determine as like over the hill. Like, just like you've checked out. But I heard that we actually did a pretty good job of getting everything set up and rolling for everybody that was teaching a course this semester still. There weren't any big problems, even though like older faculty, once they got everything set up, they, utilized the online components of Canvas pretty well, like the BBC Collaborate thing. Like, they were able to break people out into like their discussions, and it was like, oh wow, this is an ideal scenario. And then I go on to like Badger Barstool, and I see all this bullshit of like professors who are just like absolutely 110% dropping the ball. Like, I saw one today where it was like somebody like logged onto their Canvas page, and it was like a thread, just a big thread of students who are like, "Where's the exam?" Because it was the exam time, but the professor just forgot to post it. So like it's just this long thread of everybody who's like, "Where's the exam?" and then just a bunch of Fs.
Oh God. No shows.
Yeah. Well, F's like in the chat, so
Oh, F's in the chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, not something like, hey, you didn't do the assignment. 0%. 0 out of 100.
Better show up next time.
Because there was no assignment.
Yeah.
Is this at all similar, Connor, to your? I want to say it was your fall, your freshman year, if I remember correctly. Wasn't there like a huge snowstorm finals week, and like all finals got canceled?
Yeah, which was pretty awesome. Yeah, I had a final canceled. That was really nice. It was really weird because it was only for that day, and it was in the middle of the exam week. So, like, if you had exams after that, you still had to take those.
Oh.
So it wasn't like all exams are canceled. It was like only that one day where things got like really, really bad.
Cause I had a pair of my neighbors from back home. They're twins and they're fresh. They're the same age as you. So that was their freshman year up there, and they had that similar situation where they had the exam put online. Like, do it online, don't cheat. Well, they're both in the same class. They definitely worked together on it.
Well,
and you'll never know.
Nope. Don't cheat. Honor
system. Did your
system.
final get rescheduled, or is it just kind of?
No, it was just dropped, and so there was like whatever grade you have is what you're gonna get.
Oh, well, I guess that kind of could work in your favor or not.
It was fine. I was taking a speech class, and it was just, oh my goodness, like the dumbest fucking thing that I'd ever done. Need to do it because it was like Com A or Com B or one of those things, and it was like, oh my god, like this is useful on the face, like the ability to public speak is important, and you need to be able to do it, but the way it was very, I don't know. Something about the structure of it just didn't really make any sense. It was like trying to write these speeches on like certain topics, like a persuasive speech that I'm trying to remember. I just remember the structure didn't really make any sense because it was just like, I don't know when I'm going to be like trying to like sell somebody a thing, like a material object. Like I get that I have to like maybe use this to convince somebody of something that I believe, but it was like, we're going to use these topics that are like very specific, like here you have to write a 6-page speech on selling something.
Sell me this pen.
Yeah, and it's like, why do I have to do this?
You know what was I have like when I took my English class or whatever, because I tested out of Com A, so I didn't take any English really, and then I had to get my Com B in, and I was like, had heard that the engineering Com B is just kind of like a bit of a pain in the ass, so I was like looking at the curriculum requirements, and it was like, oh, you could take English 201. So I took English 201 in my last semester of college with like 95% freshmen, and I got basically nothing out of it because I'm like, well, at this point, I already pretty much know how to write. Like, you're not going to really teach me a bunch of new stuff. But it was definitely a lot easier than taking probably the normal engineering Com B.
Wait, so you didn't take EPD 397?
No, man, I didn't want to deal with that class.
Oh, man, that shit wasn't actually as bad.
Yeah, but I put in
as
like...
I thought it would be.
I had to put in like 0 effort into my class, and I was like, all right.
I had to put in more than 0, but yeah, I felt like I got something out of it. It was weird because I actually feel like I got better at speaking and presenting what I learned in that class than I did in the actual Com A, EPD, whatever, the technical speaking or presentation class.
Yeah. Oh God. Oh yeah. I totally forgot about the required presentations class, the technical presentations.
Yeah.
That class was a shit show with that rotund guy. I forget what his name was, but the professor was just like the worst.
Oh shit! Yeah, you had like the department chair or something.
Yeah, and he would just like straight up, just like grill people like during their speeches. It's like I remember this one girl was up there and she was having some kind of like a technical malfunction, and he's just like your time's running out. Like, I'm counting this as the time for your speech. Like, he's saying this out loud to her in front of everyone. He's just like, your time's running up. Like, you didn't prepare a backup. You know, he's like, you look nervous. Like, what's going on? And it's like, dude, you are such an asshole. Like, this class is meant to help people not be afraid of public speaking, and you're like doing the exact opposite.
Yeah, I remember hearing about this. Now you reminded me. I remember hearing your horror stories from that one. The instructor or professor I had for that one was really good. Similar with my EPD 397, it was. I thought that was a valuable experience taking that class.
Sounds like you just lucked out more with your professors. You got
I think for the most part I did.
Got the good soils guy, got the good EPD guy.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who I'll tell you, I didn't luck out with Calc 3.
I don't think anyone does. They're all bad.
I don't remember who I had, but just Waco and I took that class together, and that's the hardest class I've ever taken and the worst I've ever done in a class. That's where the semester started out fine, and I was grasping all the stuff, and then by the end of the semester, I thought I was grasping all the concepts in the material, and I studied for the final and felt okay, and went and sat down and took the final, and I flipped my page through it and said, oh, well, I can start one of these problems, but I don't know how to do any of them.
Oh, fuck. I want to say...
That was an eye-opener when I flipped through. It was like, oh, shit, I know nothing.
I can probably one-up you, because I took Calc 3... It was either Calc 2 or Calc 3, but I'm pretty sure it was Calc 3. And, like, I got to the first exam, I took it, I did absolutely terrible. Like, I think it was a genuine actual F. It was like a 30% or something like that. And I, like, talked to the TA, and I was like, can I recover from this grade? And he was like, well, if you do really well on the remainder of the exams, you could probably get, like, a C or something like that. I was like, all right, well, that's my signal to drop this thing and try again next time. And then I did fine the next time, but it was just like, it's not worth it. I'm gonna go figure something else out.
See, I was way past that point where I think I got maybe a B on the first exam. Didn't do great on the second, and then I think the final, it was just a slow descent down the hill. And then when I got a, it was really bad because like when you opened up the old Learn at UW, this is like before Moodle, and they had like the grade distribution shown.
Oh no!
And it's like, oh, yep, there's me and Tommy way at the end, and the 20% column.
All the way on the left side of the histogram.
Yeah. Okay. There's those two dots. That's me, and that's my roommate.
Well, at least you're
but
in
I
it
beat
with
him by like 1.5%.
Oh,
That was a wonderful thing to come home to.
Yeah, seeing that.
Well, it was like Sam, I think, got home and said what he was like, fuck, man, I botched this shit real bad. And then, yeah, he found his grade. And then shortly after that, Tommy found out his grade. And it was like, he did even worse. It was like, there's no way that Tommy did worse than whatever, 26%.
Oh, man.
No, he did barely.
He did.
But you guys both passed, right?
What was that?
You guys both passed, right?
Yeah, I got a C.
All right, well.
I was very worried about that, but
Well, it's in the past now, and I guarantee you're probably never going to use Calc 3.
no, I actually because that one like sticks in my brain so vividly. Like I actually at work the other day looked up like Wikipedia. What is Green's theorem?
That's the only thing I remember.
What was that? I remember the name of it, and that was it.
Yeah, I'm like, that's what I was going to say. I was like, Green's theorem. That's the one thing that sticks, but I have no idea what it was. Time to do a little research. Oh, yeah,
so
that's
Calc
right.
3 stuff that I don't use ever. I don't use any calculus.
No, I've never used calculus. Calculus is definitely part of engineering, but it's like engineers themselves don't like do the calculus. That would be too
Smarter
time-consuming.
people figured it out for us, and then we're just using it at scale.
Yeah, we don't bill the clients for calculus time.
Well, thank God.
Exactly, because apparently we did not do well, so we're not really qualified to do calculus.
1/4 of Calculus 3.
Yes.
Well, speaking of horror stories, I wanted to tell you guys this story. This is unrelated to academia, but earlier this week, So it's with Mother's Day coming up on Sunday. It's like, you know what? I'm not going down by my mom or anything. So I'll run up to the store, pick up a card for her and my grandma, and send that home. So went and did that. I'm driving up to Walmart, and I'm pretty close, and it's I'm coming up to this roundabout, and there's a car, maybe coming. It ends up turning right out of the roundabout, so I wouldn't have been in conflict with it at all. But there's another car behind him, so I could have gone and not stopped, and it would have been fine. But whatever. Playing a little safe at the roundabout. Don't think that ever hurt anybody. But a guy behind me disagreed. So this guy's laying on the horn behind me. Then after we get out of the roundabout, he kind of peels by me, flips me off, and whatever. Casual road rage. Everybody's been there. It's happened to everybody.
Yep.
This guy's going, and he's going like, oh, okay, there's Walmart coming up on the left, and this guy's turning left into Walmart. Huh. So now the wheels the gears in my head are turning. It's like, am I going to follow this guy and say some shit to him? Yeah, I did.
Oh, what? You what?
So this guy pulls into the Walmart parking lot. I'm pulling in there too, and I'm behind him like, yeah, let's do it. So I'm just, because he's going across the whole thing, kind of the far side. And I'm like, yeah, I'll keep following him. Then I peeled off like one aisle before him. And so I pull in there. I park. He's on the other side. He gets out. Okay, I'll circle back to what I'm thinking during this whole time. But I get out, and I'm walking in, and then I look over at him like, hey, man, you got a problem with me? Fuck yeah, dude. What are you doing stopping in a roundabout? I'm like, man, there's a fucking car coming. It's like, well, you could have gone in and pulled that driver's license out of your ass. Which, that shit cracked me up so fucking much. Pull your driver's license out of my ass. So I laughed right at him. Ass. Yeah. And just dying laughing, having a good time here. This guy is all pissed off. And I was like, man, what are you in a big hurry to get to Walmart for? He says, yeah, don't worry about what the fuck I'm doing. And that was pretty much the end of it. And then he walked away, and I was like, all right, that's probably a good place to leave it. That's too much already. So
yeah, you don't want to get in an altercation. Wait, so
no, and then in retrospect, I'm like, man, that was really stupid. I should not have done that. That could have gone so much worse for everybody. But I don't know. I had a little fun with it.
So the real question is, what do you drive, and what was he driving?
He was driving, I don't know, I think it was like a Chevy Malibu.
Oh, okay.
It was a standard sedan car, and I was driving my old man Mercury Sable.
Oh, okay. So I was thinking here that this guy was, some kind of a lifted truck type guy, and then you're in your whatever, your normal sedan. But it sounds like you guys are probably on, level playing field in terms of the unnecessary car flex game or whatever.
Oh, absolutely. The demographic for the people that drive my car is like 70 plus. And I'm 24. So kind of a fun juxtaposition there. This guy was like, I don't know, probably late 40s, early 50s. Definitely put out some lifted truck energy, but
yeah.
I don't know. I wasn't like worried that I was going to go get an ass whipping. I think I could have taken it if it would have came to that, which I had no intent of doing. But it was just one of those things. Like I wish I knew what he was thinking when he has his little outburst on the road there, and then he sees as he's pulling into the Walmart parking lot this car following him.
Right.
Just like, hey man, you're gonna have to fucking answer for what you just did out there, man.
There are consequences for these actions.
And I guess that was the main thing. And so after the fact, I ran through this like 100 times. It's like, man, I could have said so much better shit.
Yeah,
than what I did.
That's always how these things go, right? Like it's always like you get into the moment, and then it passes, and it's like, fuck, man.
I could have roasted this guy so much better.
Do you guys watch Seinfeld at all?
Not a ton.
Oh yeah. This is a jerk store situation.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's a jerk store situation. That's exactly right. Like you don't have whenever you have an argument, you got to be the guy that's got the really, really good closing line. And then there's that one where George is like, "Oh, the jerk store called. They're looking for you." The guy's like, "What is a jerk store? It's not a thing." It's like, "Oh, yeah, you're right." So now you gotta keep like an index card of like burns in your glove compartment, ready to go for future road rage encounters.
Yeah, the one angle I was thinking, like, man, I could have gotten out and been just like overly apologetic. Just, Sir, I am so sorry. What, anything I can do to just make up for what I've done. I'm sorry I wronged you in such an unforgivable way. Yeah, just be.
Can I suck your dick?
Please. Take
Let me
my
suck your
credit card.
dick.
For free.
Here's my. I'll let you fuck my wife.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, be careful though, man. You don't want to.
Yeah, I know. Then that's like, I'm not advocating for this at all. I probably should never do this, but
I can't believe you did actually do that. That's nuts.
yeah, I don't know. I surprise myself every once in a while.
Pandemic
But,
is bringing out the best in all of us.
Yeah, you got to keep.
I mean, here's the kind of sappy like take I have out of this after it is kind of it's like, you know what, I'm gonna feel real good about myself because I think I saved this guy's life. And you know why? You know how? Because next time he's pissed at somebody for being a little cautious at a roundabout, he's going to think back on that situation and be like, you know what? I'm not going to give him the finger because next time, you know, maybe it's not someone who's as even-keeled and calm and collected as I am.
Yeah.
I'm just going to beat the shit out of this guy.
That's what you should have said to him. You should have said, "Sir, I saved your life. Like, you should be thanking me."
Yes, because I'm not going to kill you right now.
Right. You know?
Look, how lucky are you that I'm a sane, rational person in this moment?
You're like, I'm protecting you from yourself. Like, if I would have gone through that roundabout, you probably would have like gone as well, and then you would have gotten, well, I guess you wouldn't have gotten smacked because as we know, it was all fine in the end, and like you could have gone anyway. But you know, the principle is still there.
Yeah, and it's like, it's a situation I replayed it like, man, was I overly cautious on the actual road on the driving portion of this? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to apologize for being a little cautious at a roundabout and avoiding a wreck.
Yeah,
rather do that than risk it for the biscuit there.
Yeah, you were in the right, I would say, to be cautious at the roundabout. Because, like, you know, the one thing with roundabouts is they kind of came into prominence, like, you know, after people had already taken driver's ed. So, like, nobody really knew how to use them. And, like, people generally don't use their turn signals in roundabouts, which they're supposed to. So, like, you know, nobody really knows what anyone's doing half the time. You just kind of like, oh, there's a gap. I'm just going to squeeze in there, you know. But if people actually use their signals, then you could probably make them a little bit more efficient. But
yeah, that's exactly what the case was. Where if that first car would have used their turn signal, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
But they didn't, and at that point I was already stopped, and there was another car coming that did actually go through. So I was like, well, we'll just wait here, and we're good, and we'll go. Yeah, and we'll take the 2 extra seconds and just be patient.
Speaking of driver's ed, did you guys hear that they're going to waive road tests?
I did hear about that.
No, I did not hear this.
There's such a backlog of people that need their road tests done, but with the coronavirus, how are you going to make sure that that's sanitary? Having hundreds of kids in one car in a day. So they're looking at waiving, like, I think DMV is all over the place, like nationwide, but Wisconsin specifically is like trying to waive the road test because their argument is that they, like, 98% of people pass the test on their first or second try, and they're not learning anything new in the road test. It's just a matter of putting their lessons into practice. So just waive it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, to be honest with you, it's the whole driver's ed, or the test you have to take to get your license, is honestly just kind of like a big gotcha question, because like they're all just waiting for you to fuck up on the uncontrolled intersection. That's like the only thing. You know what I mean? The rest of it's all pretty standard issue, and they're just like, oh, if you forget to stop at the one uncontrolled intersection in your entire city, then you fail. You know, like that's all they're trying to do.
Yeah, I don't really think the driver's test means a damn thing. I remember my sister got like 6 points off or something on her test. I got 0 points off on mine, and I was very proud of myself. And I was the one that ended up wrecking a car twice before I was out of high school. So
the correlation is not there.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't fucking matter. Doesn't
plus,
determine.
isn't it? If I remember right, like, once you're 18, I think it's either 18 or maybe 21. But do you still need to do a driver's test then? I think you can just...
No, I think you can just go. That was what one of my high school friends did.
Just wait.
Oh, maybe I got that backwards, where you don't have to do the written test then, or you don't have to take the class and have all those hours. There's something that's, once you're a certain age, something is not required anymore.
Yeah, you can like do the hours, and then at some point, I think at 18, you can take the written test or something, and you can get a license.
Driver's ed.
So I don't know. I'm not too worried about all these goddamn kids.
These crazy. Driver's ed itself, though, was like just a massive waste of time. I mean, it was just like another obstacle you had to go through that cost a bunch of money just to like prop up the big driver's ed or whatever.
Big driver's ed.
Yeah, like I literally didn't really learn anything I don't even remember how long it was. Like it's a couple of months or something like that. You have to go once a week, and it was pretty much just like drunk driving's bad. You know, let's get on Highway 51 and go the same speed limit for 20 miles, and then I'll pull into this gas station, and then the teacher would like get an oversized soda because he was just like he's a big boy, and then we drive back. Like that was the whole class. Like I was like, Dad, can you like teach me how to drive, because this class you paid for is pretty much just how to get on a highway and drive straight. That was the whole class.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You didn't learn UCLA, up curb, left always, when you're parking your car on a hill?
No, my dad taught me that. I'm telling you, like.
I learned that in driver's ed.
Well, you guys clearly had a better driver's ed than whatever I went
Sounds
through.
like it.
I forgot what that lesson was because there are no fucking hills to park up in. This isn't a very like highly differential terrain state that we live in.
There's a bunch of, in particular, I'm thinking over by your last place you lived at. There was a couple times I was down there. I definitely
That's
parked
true.
on a hill on, I don't know whatever street that was. Chamberlain,
Princeton.
Yep.
Oh yeah, that place is hilly. I used to live over there too. It's a pain in the ass sometimes.
True. We did watch a few cars have a terrible time with that in the winter.
I was one of those cars at one point. I was trying to go to I think I was trying to go to drum formal, and I was trying to pick like Mila up or maybe someone else, and like I couldn't properly. I was like parked on an incline, and I couldn't like safely get out of the spot, and then my headlight burned out at the same time or something like that. So I was I texted Mila, and I was like, hey man, I don't really feel safe driving right now. I'm like, I have no lights, and I can't get out of my parking spot, so we may have to like just get an Uber. Let's just make the call now while we could, and so we can still get here on time.
Yeah. We may just have to audible from this.
Yeah,
my broken car.
I'm making an executive decision here that this is not the right move.
Oh, yeah. Well, in any case, you guys want to talk about daring train robberies?
Six greatest train robberies of history.
Yeah, train robberies. It's I don't know how prevalent this still is. I know my dad, before we get into it real quick, my dad told me this story about these kids he knew in high school. And there used to be some rail cars parked out. That would sit out on one of the industrial tracks out in Racine. I guess he knew some kids who went and like broke into a boxcar out there, and it was just filled with Crunch bars. Oh yeah, because there's a Hershey factory out in Burlington, Wisconsin.
Oh,
so that's probably where they came from. But there was just a boxcar just completely filled with shelf ready packaged Crunch bars. So they grabbed some of them, obviously not all of them, because that's a lot of damn Crunch bars in a giant ass boxcar. Yeah, they had Crunch bars for a while.
For years.
That's
my only
such a high
story.
school thing.
I know.
That's probably like the only train robbery I've ever heard happening that anyone has actually like known about in real life. You know?
Yeah, me too.
See, I'm imagining like, obviously this was going to happen, but like they open up the doors and they're just like a flood of Crunch bars that come out and they like get knocked over, but obviously they're probably like neatly stacked up in boxes. But it is funny to think like just this mound of Crunch bars.
They're all just loose.
Yeah, like it's stacked up like coal or something.
Yeah, I imagine it like you ever see those like used car dealers when they advertise, hey, you buy a used car, you'll fill your entire trunk with soda.
What?
One of those where they just throw a whole bunch of 2 liters in there. But it's the entire boxcar is just filled with with fun size ones too.
Yeah, right.
Just all strewn about, stacked up high, and they had to like quickly close the door before they all spilled out.
And they suffocate in mini crunch bars. Or in like the used car salesman has the sodas in the back of the trunk. It's like they just keep them in there during all the test drives, you know? That way when the person finally buys the car, they're all like shook up and then they just explode or whatever in the dude's face. Like, joke's on you, you bought a shitty used car from me. Now you got soda in your face.
Like a hypothetical, like a train robbery, I could think of, like there's a project I'm working on down in Texas for a scrap metal place, and they're processing copper and then sending that out somewhere. So they're loading that in boxcars, and since that's a pretty valuable metal, I could see that being a target for robbery. Someone break into that and load up a bunch of copper and then go resell it back to a scrap place for a pretty penny.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's totally a thing. Copper wire theft and all sorts of things like that.
Yeah, I heard a lot of stories about that when I worked at this place I co-opted at a couple years ago. We did cell tower design, and so all the towers, they have copper grounds buried around the base of the tower. And some guy would like dressed up in his AT&T, had like fake AT&T or Verizon credentials or something. We could just go to a bunch of these sites that are in the middle of nowhere, just in a field, and just, I don't know, he looked like he knew what he was doing, and then would break in and then dig up all the copper and then threw it in the back of his truck.
See, this is not related to train robberies, but I actually just got done. The big project I was working on at work was related to the security features at hydropower facilities, and like one of the, like, I can't get into the specifics because it's, you know, critical energy infrastructure stuff, but one of the things we look at is like different threat levels, from like, you know, a vandal all the way up to like a more sophisticated like terrorist organization. But I guess, yeah, that would be like the vandal kind of category, someone who comes in and they're like looking to steal copper wire, stuff like that. So I'll have to think more about the copper wire thieves for future projects.
Yeah, any precious metals that are attainable in remote areas. A little something to file away in the back of your head there.
Yeah, well, there you go. I didn't think I was going to get workplace training on the podcast, but there you go, I did.
How fast do trains usually travel at?
Well, depends. They can go, so like stuff in Madison down by you locally, they're only moving 5 to 10 miles an hour. But if you get out on a high volume main line, so a good example would be between the Canadian Pacific main line between like Milwaukee and the Twin Cities. They can do 80 miles an hour on there, no problem.
Ooh.
Getting zipping.
I was just curious. I did get up to 120 miles an hour in Train Simulator, but I didn't know how accurate that was.
Yeah, and that's different out on the East Coast. Like when you're, I don't think because what railroad are you doing Sims on? The Long Island Railroad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not as fast. I don't know what the what the permitted operating speed there is. Well,
120
probably tells you.
So
that's like the maximum speed, or that's what like the permitted speed is.
I think that's what I topped out at.
Yeah, it's I can tell you that for sure. Well, maybe not. I don't know, but the probably the timetable speed is probably less than that. But no, the Excella Express on the Eastern Corridor between, that's the Amtrak higher speed train. It's not really actual high speed by definition.
By international standards.
but when compared to like Japan, China, and European high speed rail stuff, but that's their fastest train in the United States between DC and Boston, the Eastern Corridor there. Or the Northeast Corridor, rather. I don't know what the top speed on that is, but it's over 100. I know that.
So I was going to ask, like, I'm familiar with this game Truck Simulator that I've never played, but is this Train Simulator basically like you're driving the train?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so it's basically the same kind of game. Yeah, it's just like, it's not like a Sim City roller coaster tycoon type train game. It's like a straight up, you are the conductor of the train. Yeah,
you are the conductor. Yeah, and how accurate it is up to the imagination, I think, because the handful of times that I've played it, I've had a hell of a time, first of all, but it certainly tries, I think, and there's a huge cult following behind it, first of all, that I was completely unaware of, that people that play it unironically And I feel kind of bad because I'm not really one of those people. Like, I definitely don't game on Train Simulator very seriously.
You gotta get peripherals for it now.
Yeah, well, yeah. So anyway, it apparently does a pretty good job of like actually simulating like the, schedule and like the things that the conductor actually has to do in order to keep the train running on the schedule. But I mean, like in the game, it was of course like, all right, well, what can I do to like fuck around here? And so it's like I'd get the Long Island Railway going, and then you can change the top speed here. Like I can crank it all the way up and wait for the train to accelerate to a an impossible speed to stop. And I did that once when I was actually trying to play it seriously. I was trying to make the stops and go at the regulated speed limit or whatever. And then all of a sudden, this fucking train on the side of me on another rail started passing me. So it was like, oh, absolutely not. And so I cranked it all the way up, and then I went and sat in the back in the cab next to a person and just let it ride. It was like, sorry, man, I don't know if you're getting off at the next stop, but you're not anymore. So
This is a train to hell right now.
we're on the highway to hell, mister. And so we sat there for a while, blew past a couple stops, and then I had to hit the e-brake to make sure we stopped at the third one. Drained all the brakes, had to charge those up. Got like a whatever. I didn't even get I don't even know what the purpose of doing that is, because it's not like you don't get fired. Like
There's no repercussions.
No, you just like get off the next stop and everybody gets off, and then next group of people get on.
Can you crash the train? Have you done that yet?
I haven't crashed the train. I don't know if you can.
Have you figured out if you can flip the switches at all and get on different tracks than the one you start on?
I haven't figured that out, but I think I looked it up, and I think you can.
If you get out of the train, run down along the track or something, and then go by the switch stand and throw it.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. There's definitely a demographic for people to like play the game seriously, and like it chills them out. Like I don't know if you guys are familiar with CGP Grey, who's like a YouTuber and a podcaster. But he talks about playing Truck Simulator. That's how I knew about that. And he plays it like just as a way to like relax. Like he'll like play it while he's like watching a movie or something, because he's just kind of like a fidgety guy or something, and he just like likes to get into it and like just pretend he's driving the truck.
Well, I mean, I understand why it's like cathartic for people, because it is like a very relaxing game. I'll give it that. But I don't know. It was kind of hard because there was like a bit of a learning curve at first, and it was like if you don't do all the steps, obviously the train doesn't go. So I remember spending the first half an hour of one of the times it was like, fuck. What do I press?
If you want a real pain in the ass learning curve game that's like a simulator, there's this game called Elite Dangerous, which is like a space flight simulator, and it's apparently like it's pretty much as close as you could get to flying a legitimate spaceship at interstellar speeds. Like you have to I don't know, you got to know all the controls, and like the game doesn't really explain it. Like the learning curve is just gigantic. I've never played it, but it's apparently
I don't want that. That's not what I want to do for fun.
Yeah, no, it's one of these games that's less of a game and it's more of like work. You know what I mean? It's just like, yo, you want to pretend like you're a legitimate space pirate? Like, here you go. It's not as fun as you thought, is it?
And I looked up the Excella, fastest train in the United States, top speed 150 miles an hour.
Ooh.
That's in 3 sections. It's going that fast between in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. So
The Acela. There we go.
like the one profitable line that Amtrak operates.
I was gonna say, like, Amtrak is not. They're kind of just propped up by the government, aren't they?
Yeah, their whole setup is interesting because they're an independent company, but they're owned by the government. think that's a good characterization of that. And because of that, since they do get most of their funding from the federal government, that's why they have to continue to operate unprofitable lines. Where if they were truly an independent corporation, like 2/3 of the routes, the majority of like the long haul distance routes they operate, they would just cut and not provide. But they have to provide those because some of those places it's a form of public transportation, and so people that don't have access to other forms of transportation to travel regionally rely on that.
Yeah, true. I was gonna say there are even I know that there are like actual flights that are unprofitable, but they're like mandated by the government to run these flights for the same kind of reason, where there are people who live in like really remote places. Like I don't really know, maybe it's in like Alaska or something like that, where there's just no other form of transportation. So it's like they're like, sorry, this flight makes you no money, but there's like 50 people there, so you gotta do the flight. So Sam, who owns the actual railroad tracks? Are those privately owned or publicly owned? I'm forgetting.
For the Excella?
Yeah, I guess for the Excella.
Yeah, Amtrak owns most of the Northeast Corridor that the Excella and then the slower Northeast Regional operate on. And that's pretty much the exception. The rest of the Amtrak network is they all operate on lines owned by freight railroads. So, and that's one of the common things that's why Amtrak service is usually pretty across the system is pretty inconsistent, and there's a lot of delays, is because they're being dispatched by freight dispatchers that are. I think the way the law is written, they can't prioritize their actual revenue trains, freight trains, ahead of Amtrak, but I don't know. I don't think that's actually the case.
In practice, they're gonna say like, "Hey, you're using our tracks like you're our bitch. You're gonna have to kind of wait a little bit longer."
Yeah, or hey, something came up, this train's running late, or whatever the case may be. Shit happens. Hey, you gotta tie down in the siding for a while.
Yeah.
Or just regular things that are out of other things that are controlled, like track maintenance, different construction projects along the way. It all throws a wrench into the whole thing.
Right.
Sam, is there ever a time at work where you had to work with a client and you were asked to do something that you thought was just fucking stupid?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
I should phrase that better. Were you ever asked to do something that you thought was totally insane by a client? Like way over, this person doesn't know what they're talking about, or there's no way this request is a real thing.
Oh, well, not really that, I wouldn't say, but just this is stupid. That one was we're doing this one project, and what we had done is they wanted to see, they were having a tough time. I think there was a big executive board meeting that was going on, and they were going to present this plan that we were putting together to the higher ups of this company. And so what they wanted to say was all right, they wanted some sort of illustration of how the actual site functions. So when the train shows up, it's coming in this way, it's going to stop, it's going to leave these cars here, it's going to go that way, clear this other track, get on this one, grab the outbound cars and leave. Just how that all functions. Okay, and then once the railroad's gone, we're going to take the cars and move them here, load them, unload them, shuffle them around all within under track. So we did that. We put this thing together. It's okay, yeah, it makes sense. These people don't necessarily think this way all the time, like we do. I can, after doing this for 2 years already, I can I can have a pretty good idea just looking on paper how things operate, from a physical movement, how the site works. So okay, yeah, you don't get it. We can put our little rectangles on the paper and here and make a slideshow for you how it works. The stupidest thing was we changed 2 things on a project, and they're yeah, well, we really did, and it really kind of fucked up the whole the order of all these steps and everything. So yeah, well, can we get that up? Can we get the operating plan, that graphical operating plan updated? It's seriously, you got the old one. You can't figure out how this works in conjunction. It's basically the same. It's just a big pain in the ass for me to move all these little rectangles around.
Do you think you could have justified that as a change order and gotten more money to do that, or is it kind of just a stupid thing?
I think we had way too much.
in the budget.
I think we had so much budget left on the project that it was like not even worth it. Like we got it done like pretty efficiently, where it was like, we're making buku bucks on this project already. Like we can take like 6 hours and just fix and just do this, and it's not going to put a dent in it. It's not even worth writing the change order.
Yeah, well, it's good, client relationship, I suppose. Like, you make them happy, and then they'll give you more business.
Yeah, and that's the idea, and that's like the thing I've learned like the most in just doing this. It's like, yeah, I'm doing rail stuff, but it is very much just a people business, and having those client relations, and I don't know, you make these people lives easier. They come back to you for repeat projects, and
yeah, you have
all these leads that we come in. It's who you know and who you have all relationships
definitely.
that are recommending these new clients to us. That's been kind of the most interesting thing from just a business standpoint, how this whole industry works.
You have to kiss
I'm sure it's a similar situation for you, Josh.
Yeah, definitely. Like, you have to, kiss some amount of ass to, like, it's not really up to me to do the ass kissing per se, because I'm not really involved in like a business development role. But like, that's what a lot of the project managers have to do. Like, you have, pretty much you have to do basically what the client asks of you, assuming it's not completely unreasonable within the confines of the contract and it's not like unethical or something like that. Yeah, the project I was just working on, apparently, the client was kind of this, he likes to sort of he's like a foot in the door kind of a guy. He'll like ask you, hey, could you do this one small thing? And then he tries to like kind of just build on that, like the project manager was telling me, he's like, man, it's getting really hard to keep agreeing to do these things. And I think that at a certain point he was like, okay, well, you're kind of asking a little bit more than we agreed to, so we're going to have to make some changes to the contract. But yeah, it's a balancing act.
Give an inch, take a mile guy.
What's that?
Give an inch, take a mile.
Yes, yeah, that was the actual like saying I was looking for. Yeah, that was that's him. But at the end of the day, like you agree to do some of that stuff, and you might not make quite as much money, but you do a good job for them, and then they'll probably hire you again, assuming you did good work, and then in the long run, you probably make out anyway.
Yeah, it's something we definitely thrive on in our place, is maintaining those relationships and thriving on those long-term relationships, either to get recommendations or referrals from old clients, or just have them directly come back to us for additional projects or expansions.
Mm-hmm. It's all very exciting stuff.
And that's kind of the nice, been a great learning experience for me, I'll say. Being at such a small company with only 10 people, I'm definitely getting involved in some of those managing some of these client relationships pretty early on in my career, which is, I don't know, something I probably wasn't all prepared for, but I don't know how you really prepare for that in college.
Yeah, I don't think
it's very much just it's the soft skills that definitely weren't as refined as I would have liked them to be, I guess. But I've definitely gotten better about it in the last 2 years in developing some of that stuff, being more comfortable, talking to clients, managing them, and making sure that we're getting them what they need.
Damn. Well, there you go, man. You're off to a good start. Fast
a real
track in
people
the career.
person. A real man's man.
Yeah, I had this idea, kind of a segue, but not really, but just like that old. I don't know if you guys are still in that. We all pretend to be like boomers. That page.
Yeah.
But just make a similar one. But we all pretend to be very, very important business people running late for a meeting to conduct more business.
No, you
essentially, just like the bit is, you just use all these business buzzwords like, I'm very late for this important meeting to conduct business to talk about share prices.
Stonks. You have to be the guy that's like always complaining about how many emails he has. You know what I mean? Guys, it's like, God, I'm swimming in emails right now. I try to respond to one and I get 10 more. Man, I'm so important and busy. I've got emails. Really, at the end of the day, it's like, dude, you probably just type slow. Like, I don't know. Maybe you just learn to use a computer better, then you wouldn't be so bad at your job. I don't know.
The gist of it would be basically like, do you ever watch BoJack Horseman?
No, I have not seen that.
Oh, well, there's this character in there. It's this guy, it's these two kids that are like stacked on top of each other in a trench coat. Yeah, that classic bit, and just ends up dating one of the characters in the show, and And he's just like, well, what do you do for a living? Business. It's clearly a little kid. It's like, oh, what a successful young man you are. And that just kind of runs its course for like way too long in this other character. And she can't, just is completely oblivious to that these are just two kids in a trench coat. Or just
making it work in the business world.
Yes. Conduct very important business as a businessman with my business briefcase.
But really it's full of like crackers.
Yeah,
Juice
yeah,
boxes.
again, our Seinfeld bit.
Yeah.
Kramer's.
Yeah, that's like he's literally got a briefcase full of crackers and he's just like that's his job right there.
Well, do you guys want to talk about train robberies?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I know you tried to start that conversation like 20 minutes ago. Yeah, let's do it. Let's run through these. What do you got for us, Connor?
Hell yeah. We have 6 daring train robberies. I was going to ask one of you, and this is probably a better job for Professor Wikipedia, but I mean, like, the prevalence of, like, train robberies, like, the whole, like, act of, like, robbing a train just seems, like, I don't know, extremely hazardous comparatively to, like, robbing, I don't know, like a store.
Like a bank.
Something, a thing that doesn't move or has wheels.
Yeah.
Well, it's also the advantage to doing it that way because in the late 19th century here, the bank is in the town, and what else is in the town is the sheriff,
The lawman.
Yeah, whereas the train is out in the middle of the prairie, where the sheriff isn't and won't be for a while. Maybe.
Although there is,
I don't know. That's my guess. It's just it's because it's isolated. It's an easy target, but yeah, it is a big heavy thing moving at a good rate of speed.
It's like all the risk, I think, it's very much an upfront risk type of a thing. It's like you have to find the train, you have to like get your horse up to speed or whatever, and like, I don't know, jump onto the train or whatever they have to do. But like once you're
somehow stop it.
You have to like distract them, have some kind of a ruse ready to go that I don't know what you're going to do. And then once you're on the train, it's probably really easy, but it's like that first step. Versus at the bank, it's like getting in the bank is the easy part, but then like escaping would be the hard part,
Right. Well, I'm going to read my favorite one off this list. All right, so this is the Great Train Robbery of 1963. So this also surprised me because 1963 doesn't seem like a terribly long time ago for a thing like a train robbery to happen.
No, that is fairly recent from what I was thinking here.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read this whole description. The biggest train robbery in British history came in 1963. So that's also a surprising thing. It's the biggest one in history, and it was in 1963. When a gang of 15 thieves stole more than $7 million in banknotes, the equivalent of $60.5 million today, from a Royal Mail train. In the early morning of August 8th, the robbers rigged a false red signal light near the section of track called Sears Crossing. When the locomotive stopped at the light, more than a dozen men in ski masks appeared, beat the driver with a metal rod, and uncoupled most of the cars. After forcing the driver to move the remaining cars to a rendezvous point a mile up the track, the thieves formed a human chain and quickly transferred 120 bags of money, most of them containing bills set to be removed from circulation, into 3 waiting vehicles. After escaping the scene, the robbers hid out for several days in a nearby farmhouse where they celebrated by playing Monopoly with their 2.5 tons of stolen cash. Spooked by the high police presence in the area, the men eventually divided the loot and split up. Police were later called to the scene where they discovered heaps of evidence, including fingerprints on the gang's Monopoly board that helped them track down the thieves. 12 of the gang members were eventually arrested and sentenced to a total of 307 years in prison.
Wow.
So there
a lot of parts of that story that are pretty good.
Yeah, so the first thing, the barrier to entry there, so they rigged up a false red light. See, that's the thing that jumps out to me as someone in the railroad biz, like, well, how do they do that? just gloss over that minor technical detail. But
how would you do
that's
that,
interesting 'cause
Sam?
they
How would
what's
you do that if you had to do it?
Well, if I did it,
Not saying that you would.
no, I used the OJ line. I don't know. I'm dumb, so I'd probably just climb up on the signal tower and then put a red filter over the light
That's
to make it look red when it's actually not.
Maybe it's what they did.
Or I guess what you could do is you could somehow just close the circuit within that block. If it's an automatic block or if it's CT, I don't know if it's CTC. I think if it's automatic block territory, I think what you could do, because the way the signal system works is there's electric current running through the track, a very, very low, I think it's a low current. So when a train with its steel axles or steel wheels is in that territory, it closes the circuit, knows there's a train there, and displays red signals to everything behind that train, indicating that section of track is occupied. So I don't know, you could probably do that. Just close the circuit up the track from it, and then trigger that. I think there's a lot more fail-safes nowadays to something like that, but in most modern railroad signaling, but that would be the smarter way I could think to do it. I'm not advocating for it. Disavow, but
But if we had to do it,
that's how you
yeah.
do it.
Well, the other thing too is they were able to identify that this train was the train of interest that had all this money on it.
Yeah, and I doubt that it just had a bit. It was like whatever it said. It didn't just say Royal Mail Train on the side, probably.
Probably not. It's probably a little more discreet than that, but
that's weird.
But hey, they tracked this thing down, knew what it was going to be, and then executed the plan here pretty well. A lot of people involved.
It's like these guys are apparently, like, you know, they're not stupid if they got this far, but then they like go ahead and they like leave their fingerprints all over a Monopoly board and forget to take it with them. You know?
Yeah, for as well organized and well thought out as this seemed to be, and then just got real sloppy on the tail end.
They always think that it's like that's how it works with a lot of these like these heist, you know, or more elaborate crimes. Like they got the perfect heist, but then it's like the escape plan is just like they forgot to plan for that part of it. They're like, oh, once we got the money, who cares? We'll just walk out of there. It's like, well, you know, got to think about that half of it.
yeah. The other part of this here, was the the transferring the 120 bags of money, doing the old-fashioned, you know, human
Old bucket
chain.
brigade.
Conga
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. I suppose it's the fastest way.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Looking at some of these other ones, though. Let's see here.
What's
the biggest
the
real
oldest one?
haste. 1924, 1890.
Yeah, the Roundout train robbery in 1924. That's an interesting one, just because Roundout is in northern Illinois. Down the old Milwaukee Road line there's a junction there, and a diamond, and I've been through that area on the Amtrak, heading down to Chicago from Milwaukee. So I've actually been through that area.
Oh, and this train robbery that you're talking about, they how they got onto the train was they threw noxious bottles of formaldehyde.
Jeez.
That's such a 1924 thing to do.
Back in the post World War I era, when everyone was all in the chemical warfare scene, and they're like, "Oh, we should do that. That worked."
Let's put this weird thing in a glass bottle and throw it on the ground.
Yeah.
It's good how they got caught too. They accidentally shot one of the accomplices. So not well organized after the fact, and then they got arrested when they went to the hospital. It's like, hey, shot my bro here, robbing a train. Oh, I'm sorry. Whoops.
It's like they go in there and none of them can see, none of them can breathe or anything like that. They're like, oh shit. They're like, it's like Django Unchained, if you guys have seen that. I think that's the movie, right? Where there's the guys who are they're like all on horses and they got the bags over their heads and they're like, you didn't cut holes in the bags. We can't see shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
Is that
Yeah.
Django Unchained or is that a different movie?
Yeah.
yes. Oh, that's the best part of the movie.
Yeah, when they're all trying to gather up and do the KKK stuff.
Yeah. He's just like, I think Brad's wife made the bags, and like she really tried her best, you guys. Like, don't be so hard on not Brad's wife. I'm thinking of Brad's wife from like Cracker Barrel or whatever.
Yeah, we can all agree that his wife did a real nice job, but next time we'll cut holes in them.
Cut holes in the bags. Yeah.
All right. Well, I have the first rail robbery in U.S. history. It was in 1866, October 6th, 1866. The brothers John and Simeon Reno staged the first train robbery, making off with $13,000 from an Ohio and Mississippi Railroad train in Jackson County, Indiana. So let's see here. Trying to get to the synopsis part of this. Though created in Indiana, the Reno brothers' new method of robbing trains quickly became. I totally skipped over the new way that they did this. Here we go. Trains have been robbed before the Reno brothers' holdup, but these previous crimes had all been burglaries of stationary trains sitting in depots or freight yards. The Reno brothers' contribution to criminal history was to stop a moving train in a sparsely populated region where they could carry out their crime without risking interference from the law or curious bystanders. So that harkens back to what Sam was saying before, and it makes you wonder if Sam's maybe done this before. Let's continue on here. So, the railroad owners, let's see. Yeah, I don't know. They robbed a train. There isn't a whole lot of interesting things here. It did say that after this, though, that railroad owners started to put guards in these boxcars and disguise the cars that they were using.
Were they like the first? They're like flight marshals, but they're train marshals or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
It's like plainclothes dudes.
Union Pacific here said that they were pioneers of this.
Union Pacific's still in business.
And that's why. Put a guy with a gun in the boxcar.
Man, isn't it crazy to think this is not? I'm like really bad about staying on topic of train robberies, but that like because there's a flight marshal on like every flight, right? Or is it just like a random sampling of flights?
What?
I thought it was every flight, but maybe that's just what they tell you.
Yeah, that could be what they tell you. But I was just thinking, like, man, every flight I've been on, if there was a plainclothes dude with a gun that could like beat the shit out of me if I was acting up, it just is like kind of weird to think about that.
That's a lot of dudes.
Yeah, right? And like
that's such a large workforce.
And like there's okay, you're right. There's no way that they have a person on every flight. That's just that's just a thing they tell you. Keep you in line.
That's what they want you to think. They want you to think that there's no way that they can bolster a workforce like that.
Oh, God.
Let's see. Are there air marshals on every flight?
But get it from, like, a third-party source. It can't come from, like, the FAA or anything like that. Or the
okay,
TSA.
Here's how science.howstuffworks.com. There are not enough air marshals to cover every flight, so their assignments are kept secret.
Oh.
So, there you go.
Interesting.
So, maybe.
Now we know.
There's probably actually none.
Yeah, right. It's a totally made-up job, and like every time that you see an air marshal, that's the word, air marshal, not flight marshal, on like a social media video, it's just like a dude who happened to have a gun on him, and they didn't find his gun, and he's it's like a vigilante.
It's more of an indictment on It's if you're able to sneak a gun past TSA, then you are automatically deputized as an air marshal.
Yes, exactly. They're like, well, clearly this guy knows his stuff. Like,
oh my God. I'm just looking at. I guess I've never looked at air marshal stuff seriously. I just threw this in the chat here. There's just this picture of this training ground.
Oh. I'm looking at it too.
Oh.
That's funny, dude. Oh God.
It's just this open, this gun range, but it has airplane seats sitting in it. Employee stories. Oh my goodness. Oh, this isn't what I want. TSA supervisor feeds hungry kids during pandemic. That's awesome. However, I'm looking for the air marshal stories. Yeah, maybe it's just like a cult myth.
Could be, man. I mean,
it's all just made up.
I mean, we all know that the cell phone thing was total bullshit. So like, this could be the same case too. It's like when they're like, "Oh, you got to turn off your electronics." It's like, and you can't. If you try to make a call, bad things will happen. And it's like, wait, you guys really are putting the whole safety of the aircraft in the hands of the passengers' like ability to not use their phones? Like, that's ridiculous. Of course not. You know, it's like you're just trying to like get me to pay money. That's all this is about.
You hate to see it. Is that really why they do that?
Yeah, obviously it's why they do that. It's just a big scam. So like you could back in the day, you'd have to pay for, you know, the plane that was in the back of the seat. You know, when cell phones were still in their infancy, it's like, well, shit, these cell phones are people aren't going to be paying $50 a minute to use our phone, and then I don't know. Now I think it's just a ploy to get you to like pay for Wi-Fi. Although it's not like you're going to get a cell signal up in the air, but you know what I mean. Like there was a period of time where, you know, I don't know.
Interesting.
It's all a big scam.
It's all a big scam. I agree. Well, all right. Well, we've talked some shop on some robberies here. We've talked about some air marshals. I think we should wrap it up here. We're an hour and 20 here.
Bring the train into the station.
Yeah, that's right. Bring the train into the station. Let's land this flight. Well, I mean, thanks for coming on, Josh, and giving us some insight on some things. I know I learned some things.
Yeah, man, it was a good time. First podcast, I had a lot of fun doing it. So.
Well, great. We'll have to have you back again sometime to talk about something else.
Yeah, man, I would definitely be down for that.
We've got nothing but time on our hands here.
Right. Do you guys have you guys thought of your next guest appearance, or are you guys just kind of winging it?
I've thought about asking Jahi. Jahi really wants to make this documentary about Zymox.
Oh yeah. No,
the Zymox percussion pad and like what their terrible customer service.
Yeah, he's like legitimately making like a documentary about how terrible this company is and how they need to be dethroned as like the like most popular drum pad manufacturer. Because they offered, and it's true. I mean, it's like laughable, like how terrible their customer service is, and like how like hollow their like shipping times are. Like 2 to 10 weeks doesn't seem like a lot when you just kind of like throw those numbers out there into the ether. But like if you pull up a fucking calendar and look at the date difference between 2 weeks from now and 10 weeks from now, it's quite a bit different.
Right, seriously, like a quarter of a year at the maximum end of it, basically, is like, dude, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, no other like successful company that I know of operates with such that's putting out consumer products like that. It will give you such a wide range.
They're brazen.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the whole. I think that's why he wants to get into it. Is just his like the like almost laughable audacity of like what they're doing and saying for a company that's been around as long as they have. It's like, how do you guys get by with offering just absolute like minimum low bar customer service and to these people? Like these people that are like, hey, can I just please come to your factory and pick up my pad because it's been 4 months.
I'll take the road trip. That would be quick.
Yeah, I'll literally drive to California and get it. I just want it. I spent a lot of money on it. And it's like, well, no.
Yeah, no, not at all. Well, I hope you guys should totally get him on there. I would love to listen to that and like hear about the whole Zymox expose. That sounds like super interesting, actually.
Yeah, I've been talking to him a lot about it. So, I mean, I think I told him about this podcast the other week, and so I think we can definitely work something out.
Yeah, he'd be good. I got a friend from high school that actually wrote for to get, if we want to go back, get sportsy one week here, we can get back and talk to my buddy Matt Hardesty, who was a beat reporter for Nebraska Athletics for the Daily Nebraskan. He'd be good.
Hell yeah, that'd be good. Get some sports on this podcast. Finally.
Yeah, sports ball.
Stick to sports. Yeah, he'd be a good guy to get.
Well, yeah, so
we gotta get him. We gotta get Loin at some point too to talk about his Aaron Rodgers theory.
Yeah, I'm excited to delve more into that.
Stay tuned.
Anyway, stay tuned for that. We'll have a whole expose. Well, again, thanks, Josh, for coming on. We appreciate it. Hopefully we see you soon here, but if not, take it easy and stay healthy out there.
Sounds good. You too, and thanks again for having me.
You betcha. Bye-bye.
Bye.